Hello and welcome to Mornings with Nikki Marie. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Nikki Marie, and I have a phenomenal woman as a guest today. We're going to talk about her journey to inspire, empower, and help others make their lives better. I'm your host. I'm a mental health advocate, as well as a mom of three, a wife, and so many other things. My guest today is the co host of the Blend Talk, Dr. Jewel Diamond Taylor. She's a motivational speaker, life coach, counselor, author, media personality, faith builder, podcaster. She's also known as the Self-esteem Doctor and founder of Women on the Grow Inc. So, wow. Woo, I got long-winded.
And
So,
grandmother of Cody.
yes, I mean, talk about a woman who wears many hats. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here today and blessing us with your presence.
I'm so glad to be here, Nikki Marie.
Yes, we have a lot to discuss, and I just want to say that you are doing it all, and you seem to be a woman with limitless talent. So I am happy to get advice from you and learn from you and so much more.
I'm ready. I live for this.
Yes. So
I was born for this.
so let's get into the conversation about the blend talk. Um,
Yeah.
we want to know, it's in a season 2 right now.
Mhm.
And season 2 launched when?
We've already aired 3 episodes.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we air every Wednesday on Facebook. It is season 2. It is the vision of our producer, Lavonda Rouse.
Awesome.
And we are just thrilled to be a part of it. We call it a movement because
Mm,
this show, unapologetically, for this season, is talking about how we, women of color, Black and brown, have been affected by the pandemic and on
yes,
every
absolutely.
level. And as she says, we're looking at it through the lens of the mind, the body, and the spirit, a very holistic view of how this pandemic has affected us.
Yeah, definitely. Can we talk a little bit, I guess, go a little bit deeper with the blend talk and some of the topics that you all discuss, and who are some of the other co-hosts or hosts as well?
Yeah. I'm one of 3 co hosts, Dr. Karen McGibbon, Island Girl. She is amazing. She's a psychotherapist, she's a counselor, a life coach, a wife, a mother. So much education on her resume. And then Dr. Lisa Lewis is a naturopathic doctor. Her bio is amazing. Everybody must visit their websites. Dr. Karen McGibbon and Dr. Lisa Lewis. They are so amazing and qualified and passionate about healing. And I love that you said that you are a mental health advocate. And we touch on that on the blend, and I touch on that as a part of my ministry that I do with Women on the Grow, talking about how we need to get rid of the shame and the stigma when
Yeah.
we are seeking support and guidance. We've got to bring those secrets out of the closet.
Yes.
And yeah, so we talk about those things on the Blend Talk also.
Yeah, I think there was a part where I was listening back to the show and you talked about motivation, and then there was a part of the darkness to light.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember thinking, with a book that I'm working on, it's all about coming out of the darkness, like
Yeah.
how I was in a moment of just a disarray. I was just angry. I was in a very dark place in my life. And just having the tools of self care and self awareness has brought me out of the darkness and into the light.
That's beautiful. I love analogies, and I often think of us being in a cave and
Yeah.
someone reaching in and saying, "Come on into the light." And at first, it could be very unsettling, and the shock of being aware of what you've been through or going through at the moment. You know, we are now freely talking about trauma. And I, as a life coach myself, as a talk therapist, every single scenario that I'm dealing with goes all the way back to the childhood. And what I'm finding, Nikia Maria, is this dynamic that seems to be prevalent is the mother daughter relationship.
Wow.
Mothers that are either toxic, mentally ill, sick, narcissistic,
Mm.
controlling, unprepared, immature, and how that has affected women. And women are now freely beginning to talk about it and see how it has affected their lives. They strive to be perfectionists. They chase after status. They have low self esteem. They never feel worthy. And something that's really been popping up lately is this idea, and I could relate to it because I'm one of three girls. And I adulted very quickly at the age of 7 because my parents got divorced. And what I experienced, I did what Carolyn Me says. I signed a sacred contract that I would be the rescuer of the family. And so that played out into my adult life. But what I'm finding is that a lot of women that are high achievers, women that have been able to break the poverty cycle or the addiction cycle or break any type of a cycle of divorce or low education, there comes a point where they have this sense of guilt and they have a sense of shame. I don't want to outperform. I don't want to be ostracized from my family. I want everybody to come along, and they have to understand that they made a choice, and other people in their families make choices. And so, I think it's very brave when women decide, you know what, I'm going to break the cycle. But what the consequence is now you've alienated yourself from the tribe,
Mm.
and that sense of isolation makes some women feel like, you know what, this success doesn't feel well. I don't feel like I deserve it.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I just talked about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Um, the conversation was really about change and accepting the fact that there is growth. Like there's a such thing as growing
Mm-hmm.
out of your old self into your new self.
Mm-hmm.
And feeling that isolation of, well, now since I'm changed, my friends who I had, I can no longer have because they were part of that old life of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're going to try to suck me back to that old life and that old mentality. But no, I want better. I want better.
And I don't always find that it's the family or the old relationships that pull you back. It's a sense of guilt. It's a sense
Yeah.
of, my God, I want everybody to be happy. And what happens? They become the family ATM or the family scapegoat. Or who do you think you are? You know, you hear that. And so a
Yeah.
lot of women just push their degrees and their bank
Mhm.
account and their house and their promotions, and they play it down, they diminish it because they don't want to be alienated. See, a human need is to feel connected. That's a human need.
Yeah.
If you've always felt a part of a family, no matter how dysfunctional it is, there's something about leaving
Yeah.
that makes us feel so disconnected, disassociated, out there alone. And what I didn't realize that when I was doing it, I didn't realize I was doing it. And what happened is that new people showed up into my life. And the
Mm.
ones that really loved me and the ones that saw me as an example honored it and are still with me. But there's some people that are not with me any longer. And I had to make peace with that. And those are the type of tools I try to give to my clients, is to give them, as you said, the tools to be able to navigate that. Because I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not easy, especially if you have a deep sense of loyalty and obligation.
Mm.
It's not going to be easier.
Yeah. Wow. I know this is a real talk moment.
Yeah, it is. It's been on my mind a lot because I am grateful to my clients who are so transparent and trust me with their stories and trust me with their pain. They don't even realize they're ministering to me.
Wow.
They're either helping me to be a better counselor and therapist, or they're helping me to be a better wife, they're helping me to be a better parent, they're helping me to heal also. So it is transactional.
Yeah.
It is. I remember hearing the comedian Tommy Davidson, who came out and shared his story of his, tragic beginnings. And he said, it helps to get help.
Yeah.
Simple as that. It will help you to get help.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned him because then it just immediately made me think of your um, author title. And you have a bunch of books. I couldn't even pick just one that was a favorite. So I definitely want to get into the books that you have available, but I want to go to the master class.
Ooh, yes.
So
I started that as a result of the pandemic because just like everybody else, I wanted to maintain my sense of purpose. And
yeah.
I'm very much into how I identify myself on the planet. And it's like, okay, well, just because you can't fly, because you're not standing behind a podium, doesn't mean you can't still teach.
Mm,
So I said, you know what, you're gonna have to overcome this idea, like, oh, I don't want to do the video, and oh, I'm not gonna hear anybody clapping, and oh, nobody's gonna come. I got over all those hindrances and excuses, and throughout the pandemic, every Sunday, I've only missed 2 Sundays, on my 70th birthday and on Mother's Day. Those are only 2 Sundays I missed.
you said 70?
Yeah, that's the only
Black
weekends that I didn't
don't
have class.
crack.
And it is so amazing, the conversations that we've been having, the breakthroughs. And in the last few weeks, our focus has been on financial literacy. We are getting rid of the shame of, I don't know how to balance
A
my money,
budget.
I'm
Mhm.
overspending. I got questions about trust and generational wealth. I've got questions about insurance. What do I do when I become a widow? How do I handle my money when I'm single and I'm afraid to retire? All these scary questions are coming up, and we're dealing with it. And it is so liberating and so rewarding to see women taking off the mask. And I say, take off the fake off, take the
Yeah,
fake off. And let's all admit we got some issues. And I don't know whether it's
absolutely.
money or relationships or parenting or your job, or your mental health, your physical health, your
Mhm.
high blood pressure, your obesity. And these are the things we talk about on the Blend Talk, because every single one of those areas have been impacted by the pandemic. We talk on the show about how there are disparities and inequities in the banking and funding for starting our businesses. It was already long lasting, and then it's gotten even worse during the pandemic. We talk about the quality of the education system. How is it affecting our children that are distance learning? We talk about the healthcare industry, how we hear stories of women who have gone to the hospital or taken family members to the hospital during the pandemic, and how they've been disrespected, how they didn't get, the treatment. And so these are dark issues that we have to discuss. And what we're seeking by inviting our guests is some solutions and
Yeah.
a real perspective, so that we can find where we want to be an advocate. What area? Find something, find a platform where you're going to say, this is where I am going to find
Mm.
justice.
Yeah,
It's all about justice.
yeah,
And once you choose that platform, stick with it and know that you can make a difference. We stand on the shoulder of our ancestors who never saw the freedom that we have, the choices and the options that we have, but there's still so much we have to work on. So
yeah.
we are not going to fold and be weak and complain and like just give up. We're going to be resilient. We're going to be wiser. We're going to be bolder. We're going to be blacker. We're going to be more focused and more intentional. And so for me to be invited to be on the Blend Talk for season 2, it's a perfect fit because
Yeah.
that is my mission.
There have definitely been some moments, challenges, mentally, physically, emotionally, within my household,
Uh,
and to have a platform or have the ability to be able to be vocal about these real moments in our lives that play out is so crucial to healing.
yes.
It's so
Talking.
crucial. I
Yeah.
mean, being a mom, virtual learning,
Huh.
something I've never done with children, young kids. Like, how do you keep them focused,
Yeah.
but then also have the balance of not having them on these electronic devices all day?
All day.
So, I mean, it was a push and a shove and a communicating with the teachers. I'm like, I don't want them on all day. Just finding better ways to educate them. But
Right.
also, I'm a financial aid advisor. So, also speaking to my own students about their finances, the CARES Act, like so many different things happening with federal aid. So, it was just a big challenge and not falling into depression on
Yeah.
top of it all.
I
So,
hear you because not only are we experiencing a pandemic, I say that we are also dealing with an infodemic. There's so much information coming at us that it
load.
can paralyze you because you're just like, I
Yeah.
don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. You know, and so everybody's not tech savvy. Everybody it doesn't have the patience. There are parents who are still working, or there are parents that are staying at home and they don't have the patience uh, to
Yes.
deal with, you know, homeschooling.
Mhm.
I laugh when I think about my brother-in-law, who is a retired police chief, and he and his wife are raising young children under the age of 10. And we call sometimes, he says, well, today I'm the principal and the wife is the teacher.
Yes.
It's like you got all these different roles you have to play. And you're like, who would have thought that I would be a principal or teacher in my own home? And how do we maintain structure? And I think that's the biggest
Yes.
thing is that children need structure and it's got to come from the top down. And
It
so if we don't have structure in our lives, how are we going to give it to our children?
and it's really funny that you said that because that was my household. So I was the principal, the teacher, my husband was this, security, like, we just had I'm the lunch lady,
You're the
like,
lunch lady. Yes, everything. You got to
I'm
check
the
out.
driver.
Woo! Got to think of activities, recreation to be the PE teacher.
Yes, yes.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
The
And
art teacher, like
yes, yes. And what if you're a really left brain person and art does not stimulate you? You have no
Mm,
interest.
mm,
You know, so it's comical, but it's also kind of sad because we will not know for years
yeah,
how this is going to affect the learning curve of our children. We will not know which children are resilient. We will not know which children are psychologically, emotionally, and mentally affected by not having to play with other children or to get outdoors or to have structure. There are some parents that can afford tutoring and their children will be, you know, on schedule. And there's some children they won't get that. So
yeah,
there's going to be a lot that we're going to have to breathe through in the years to come. We may not see the effect for a while, but we
yeah,
got to talk about it, and that's the important thing. Let's not hide it. Let's not diminish it. Let's not make excuses. Let's not run from it. Let's look for solutions. Let's talk about it, and that's what we do in my master class is that each week we have a different focus. And I tell you, the women that when they open up and share with me after I've given, we have three parts. The first part is our meet and greet, and we talk, how we doing, what happened during the week, do you have a testimony, do you need prayer,
mm,
how are you applying what you've been learning so far in the class. And then I go into my message. And then after that, we open it up for everybody to share. What did you feel? What did you hear? What are you going to apply? Because I believe that when we get a revelation, we get this insight. Now, after revelation has got to be application. So I love following up to see are you doing the work? You know, I know it's not easy. I know you're challenged. I know you feel intimidated, but I'm not going to let you off the hook because I'm not going to waste my time, and you certainly don't want to waste your time.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so it's a wonderful. It's been a great experience for me and for the ladies that have been so committed to it. It's open to everyone,
Oh, nice.
and I love it. It's at 3 o'clock on Sundays, 3 o'clock Pacific time. I'm based here in California, and which is 7 o'clock Eastern time. So we have sisters that call in or come onto the Zoom room from North Carolina, Atlanta,
Wow.
Texas, mostly from California, but we do have sisters from out of state that have been following me for years, and they appreciate my style of teaching.
Yeah. I always feel like we can learn from teachers all day, all night, but it depends on the type of teaching that
Yeah.
you're offering. I was in a math class and my math teacher could not teach me.
Wow.
I kept failing every test that she would give me.
Mm.
And one day my mom said, I am so tired of this. She took me to one of her friends and she sat down with me for like 5 minutes.
And you
And
got
it took me like nothing for her to teach me. And then I went back to school, took my math test, passed, got a 96. And my teacher thought that I cheated.
it. Mm.
So went to the principal, told the principal that I was cheating on a test. And so I had to retake the test with the principal and the teacher watching, and I ended up getting a 98.
You go, girl. Now, can you see
So,
how that could damage a person's self-esteem if they didn't have a mother like yours?
yeah,
That you feel like I must be stupid.
yeah.
Are you an auditory listener, learner, a visual learner, or kinesthetic?
I'm kind of a visual learner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to show me how to do it,
Yeah.
and then I'll do it myself.
And then by you being in finance, you must be more left brain
And I'm left-handed too.
and left-handed. So when teachers know those things about you, a good
Mm,
teacher would want to know those things. And
yeah.
in my master class, they're not just learning from me, they're learning from each other because the women have found a safe place to share their stories about, heartache and disappointment and poor choices, what mama taught them, what mama didn't teach them,
Mm,
their walk of faith. So they're not just learning from me. I feel like as a facilitator, it actually means to make it easy for others to learn. So I set an atmosphere by choosing a topic, sharing some insights, and then open it up because I'm not the only one. Every single person that's in my masterclass is a teacher. They just don't know it.
ooh.
And so my ego is not driven to say I'm the one. No, I just facilitate
Mm,
so that we
love
can
that.
feel safe to share.
I love that. I also love this. So you spoke on this before, and I wanted to take a deeper dive.
Okay.
You had the 5 things to remember to manifest your next level of breakthrough and success.
Mhm.
Speak it, visualize it, think and ink it, accountability, expectance, and gratitude.
My God, it's so powerful. And I've used every single one of those. And I could speak powerfully on that because that's what's worked for me.
Mm.
I speak it. The power of what I say is a vibration that goes out. And the universe gets like this little signal beep, 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 beep. And all of a sudden, the things that I need to support what I'm saying and what I'm visualizing, I start to see it and I begin to walk in that and experience it. But until we speak it, until we see it, we're not going to manifest it. And that's not any some type of woo 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 magical stuff. It is proven that what we see and what we speak, we are powerful. And then you must think and ink. I've been saying that for 35 years. Think it and then ink it, write it down. It's something about writing down our goals. Now, what has happened in this age of technology? We're not writing as much. Children don't even know cursive. But there's something that happens in the brain when you actually think something and then you use your hand to write it. And then not only write it, but review it often. You're giving your brain a target, you're giving your brain a focus. And so another one of my slogans that's been for 35 years is the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. You're not going to keep it the main thing if your goals are tucked away under a pile of papers or stuck in your Bible and you never open your Bible, or you just wrote on a piece of post-it note and lost it. You have to see it every day.
Yeah.
And as I share often, Flip Wilson was a comedian from my era. He was so popular, and he had a character named Geraldine. And Geraldine was so sassy, put her hands on her hips, and she said, "Honey, what you see is what you get." And I
Mm,
wanted to say, Geraldine was teaching something on a higher level. What you see is, if you see yourself broke, if you see yourself homeless, if you see yourself in
mm,
a terrible relationship, a horrible job, if you see yourself failing, you just giving your mind an assignment, and you become you're living out the self-fulfilling prophecy. And prophecy means prophet. So prophet means the one who sees the future. So you're your own prophet when you speak and when you see with your third eye, your mind's eye, your spiritual eye. If that's what you're seeing You are prophesying. You are the
Mm.
prophet of your future. So you
Wow.
have to guard yourself. What am I seeing? I don't watch a lot of television. I don't watch a lot of violence. I watch documentaries. I want to learn. I am so thirsty for
Mm.
knowledge,
Mm.
and I've traveled around the world. Why? Because when I was a young girl, I was given a globe, and I was able to see the world, and I was able to believe that I could travel. Now,
Yeah.
how that happened is you can't explain a lot of the mysteries of the divine. You can't explain it, but you must learn that if that's a principle, it doesn't care who uses the principle. If I flip the switch right now and turn this room dark, that light switch does not know that that was Jewel Diamond Taylor. Doesn't know if it's a black hand, a white hand, a poor hand. It's a law. It's a law of electricity. There's a law of attraction. There are laws of cause and effect. There's so many laws, and most people think, oh, that's for the rich people. Oh, that's for the other people. No, 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 no. What are you seeing? What are you speaking from your lips?
Yeah. What are you speaking for yourself? And I use that a lot when I say the words we tell ourselves
Yes, the
every day.
story that we tell ourselves.
Yes. Ooh.
Oh,
Ooh.
I've had to share a lot of stories I was telling myself. Oh, well, I'm older now. Oh, this and that. Girl, stop it. That's a lie. Stop it. We have to just sometimes do that to
Yes.
ourselves because you can get, and that's how we grow as we become aware. I call it self-compassion. When I catch myself sabotaging myself by what I'm saying, what I'm
Mm.
feeling. I don't say, "Oh, Jill, you're so stupid. Why you do that? You're a teacher. How could you like? Jill, stop. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
Doing that today." And I catch myself. I redeem myself.
Yeah.
I self-correct
Mm.
without beating myself up. I haven't. I've done that too much most of my life. And so the awareness of what you're thinking, what you're speaking, and what
Yeah.
you're feeling is how you grow. Like, oh, I'm feeling sad today. You shouldn't say, oh, I shouldn't feel sad. Oh, that's how I'm
Mm.
feeling.
Mhm.
Okay, let's see what's going on here. Let me
Yep.
sit with this. I lost my firstborn son at 38 to cancer. And when I have these waves of grief, part of me says, well, Jewel, come on now. It's been a while. Like, no, right now, I'm going to allow myself to feel it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit with this.
Yeah.
And then you realize maybe it just triggered something else. There's something else going on.
Mm.
And you begin to, do that deep dive. What's really going on, Jewel? Oh,
Wow.
it's not just you're not just sad about your son, you're sad about this and you're sad about that. And you never resolved it, you never talked about it, you're feeling out of control. Okay, let's work on that. And then you become your own healer.
So now that's my question because I talk about the power of forgiveness and how I
Yeah.
had to forgive myself for the things that I told myself and the way I treated myself.
Yes.
But it took for someone else to help me or I guess guide me through what you're saying, which is to sit with that feeling and ask yourself the next question, like, where is it coming from?
Right.
But it took someone else for me to to come up with that. So how
We
was
need
your
each other.
process?
We need each other. We need each other. In
Yeah.
this world where everybody's angry and touchy and long distance, and I live miles away from a lot of my family members, it's very easy to get caught up in your own narrative. It's
Mm.
very easy to believe the story you're telling yourself.
Yeah.
And this is why I'm so glad, even though I've been counseling for years, when I first started, there was no phrase life coach. People were just calling me, and I was just, doing the talking and the therapy and the listening and the praying. Um, and a lot of people didn't want anybody to know. I ask for testimonies all the time, and there's still people like, well, oh, and I'll give one, but I don't want you to use my name. It's like we still got this stigma
Mm.
that there's a weakness because we're asking for help. Parents, you can't do it by yourself. Entrepreneur, you can't do it by yourself. Pastor, you can't do it by yourself. Single mom, you can't do it by yourself. We need each other.
Yeah.
And this is a myth that we've got to dispel. That especially I'm I got black magic. I'm a superwoman. I'm not a superwoman all the time. I am not a superwoman all the time. Sometimes I need help. I need somebody to listen. I need to exhale. I need to go to the beach. I need to take a nap. I need to say I'm not cooking tonight. I need to say I'm not answering the phone. But it took me a while to get there because
Yeah.
I overextended myself because I walked into those shoes at 7 years old when my father was knocking on the door after my mother left him with two children and pregnant with the third, and we left from DC to California, Compton, California, with his babies. And he was rejected. And that 7-year-old little girl in me said, I will never do that to the father of my children. And I
Mm.
will never inflict pain on people. And I will be a cheerleader for the underdogs.
Yeah.
I didn't consciously say that. But as I grew and as I studied, my education is in psychology.
Mm.
As I grew and I realized that, and one of the biggest books that was my breakthrough was Sacred Contracts by Carolyn Meese, MYSS. And it just hit me like a bolt, like, oh my God, I'm tearing this contract up. Because I would say to myself, Joe, why do you keep doing that? And I would beat my, why do you keep doing that? Why? And I would like, I don't know. I know I shouldn't do it, but I just keep doing it. It's like you signed a contract that you would be there for everybody. You signed this contract that you would rescue everybody. You'd be the go-to person for everybody. Okay, that's good. That was nice, but you don't have to do that anymore. I'm not going to beat you up. That was honorable. But honey, you didn't have a childhood. You don't have to do that anymore. That was a 7-year-old that signed that contract. You 70 years old now. But of
Yeah.
course, I said this, a few years ago, but I was an adult when I finally came to the realization and I had to forgive myself. See, we don't have to forgive ourselves for the bad things. Sometimes we need to forgive ourselves for not knowing.
Mm.
I didn't even know.
Mm. Yeah. I
Self
had to I had to let that sink in for a moment.
Yeah, you didn't know.
Yeah.
And then what I found out too is a lot of us made decisions and we didn't realize we made a survival
Mm.
strategy. And look at you. Look what you did to survive.
Yeah.
And you're going to beat yourself up for that? Okay, maybe it wasn't the best thing, but you survived it because you made a choice. So pat yourself on the back. And now let's self correct. We can do something different now because we're realizing that wasn't the healthiest thing, that wasn't the best thing. But I'm so proud of you that you made a decision to keep going, to keep moving forward. You didn't get stuck. You survived that abuse. You survived that rape. You survived that poverty. You survived that rejection. If I could tell you how many women have told me their mothers have tried to kill them, mothers that are jealous of them, siblings that are jealous of them, all because they followed their instincts and they went for the gold and they decided to break the cycle and they got out of it and now you're mad at me and you don't love me anymore. But guess what? I'm still moving forward. But then
Mm.
still got that angst and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't feel that way about my mother. Maybe I shouldn't feel that way about my sibling or my child. These are real emotions.
Yeah. Wow. And you've written a number of books yourself.
Mm-hmm. It was my healing. I wrote a
Yeah.
book a year after my son passed away. I'm like, really, God? I'm gonna write a book now. And the
Yeah.
book was called I Am Resilient. And then I realized that it's not always about learning how to be resilient after losing a loved one. People are losing their homes, their jobs, their mind, their breast. My mother passed away from breast cancer, and I speak at a lot of breast cancer programs.
Yeah.
And so losing your identity. People that retire, I talk to a lot of women that retire and they're restless and they don't know what to do with themselves because their identity was so wrapped up in their
Mm.
position and there's a loss. So I share principles and insights on how to be resilient. But it was, and I say, sometimes suffering is a setup.
Mm.
And my suffering, my
Wow.
suffering of losing my son told me that they said he would live a year and he died in 6 weeks in my arms. Uh, it was the worst. It was a turning point in my life. It broke me wide open. The suffering taught me so much, and I'm grateful for it. I just wish it didn't have to be my son, but that's a reality. So I look for the good in it. What's the good in it? The good in it is that my suffering was not in vain. If I could share with other people how to endure, and I'm very much into the knowing the history of our people. So much of it is untold, but when I read about the strength and the resiliency of our ancestors who endured horrific
Mhm.
violence and tragedy and loss, it makes my back get straight.
Yeah.
It makes my back get straight. Like, you know what? It rains on everybody's roof, and you better be resilient.
Mm.
Come on now.
Ooh.
Not today. Now you can feel it for a
And
minute, but you're gonna shake it off
yes.
because of what's flowing in your DNA.
Gosh. Wow.
Come
You
on.
know, I talked about this selflessness. Um, when the pandemic hit, it's I guess I should say before, people were very selfish.
Oh yeah.
And as things started closing and people started hurting financially and people were breaking down mentally, emotionally, certain people became selfless.
Certain people.
Certain people.
Yeah. It humbled some people, you know.
Yes.
It humbled some people, and everybody wasn't in the same boat. Everybody wasn't in the same boat. And what surprised me were the people that were just talking about their faith and their scriptures, and they all of a sudden they're lost because they can't go to a church building. I'm like, wait a minute, the church is in you. What
Ooh,
happened to all that talk? What happened to all that faith talk?
what?
What happened? What happened? And I'm like, wait a minute, it revealed a lot about people where they were always looking externally for someone to
Yes.
give to them. And to me, in our Black culture, this is one of the things, and I'm probably going to upset some people,
Come on,
but
preach.
we've been taught that somebody's going to come and save us, somebody's going to give it to us, somebody's going to. We have been not taught to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Why you keep looking for someone, or horizontally or vertically, to help you? You've already been given everything you need within you. You just haven't tapped into it.
Yeah.
And so I think the pandemic revealed the level of faith that people had. Is it a fake faith? Was it a placebo? Was it real? It taught us lessons about our finances, why that life is unpredictable. We need to save. We need to have money for emergency. It taught me so many lessons that I understand uncertainty. I understand that life is unpredictable. This is why another one of my books that is stays on my bookshelf for easy access is The Power of Now. I live in the moment
Mm.
because I know after burying so many loved ones, I've been beside grandmother, son, father, mother, mother-in-law, best friend, when all of them took their last breath. Those moments taught me how to appreciate every breath I take, how to live in the moment. Because when change happens, I'm not easily swayed. I'm not like, oh my God. I'm like, this is not fair. What happened? Life is unpredictable. And I think a lot of people suffer from the illusion that as long as I do this, and this, everything's going to go my way. No, no, that's not real. That's not healthy. That's not realistic. And it's not like I'm teaching doom and gloom. I'm just saying we live in a mysterious world. We don't understand everything. We are not in control. All we are in control is with what we're seeing, what we're hearing, what we're speaking, how we show up, how we give, how we respond, not react. That's what I'm in control of. Am I going to respond or react to the pandemic? Am I going to respond or react when some love walks out the door? Am I going to respond or react when I don't get the contract, the promotion? And these are the things that I talk about in my classes and in my books. It's emotional wellness. How to what's the word? How to deal with your emotions. How to master your emotions
Mm.
so that what's happening to you is not mastering you. How are you going to respond? You're going to be angry. You're going to be sad. You're going to be hopeful. You're going to be depressed. And it doesn't mean you're not going to have all those emotions, but they're not going to overtake you. I have all of those emotions. I have days when I feel like, you know what? I guess I'm done. And it doesn't last long. It doesn't last long. But I don't beat myself up when I have those moments when I feel like, oh my gosh, have that, doomsday feelings like, okay, it just passed over me. It's over. It's gone. That's not the truth. I know the truth, and I'm going to speak my truth. That's why affirmations are so powerful. I've been teaching affirmations for over 35 years, and people used to think I was weird. That's not of God. That's not Christian. Yes, it is. There's life and there's death in your tongue, but people get caught up with words. They get caught up and they limit themselves because if it doesn't come from a base or source or relationship that they're used to, they think that it's not of God. They think it's something spooky. They think it's something crazy. And for me, my purpose, I feel I was born to be very eclectic in my teaching, to open people's minds.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to think differently. Don't be afraid to do something differently. Don't be afraid. That's something that gets under my skin. People that are so limited.
Dare to be different.
Yeah, dare to be different. Brene Brown. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, I loved this conversation today and I've learned so much and I feel like you're very open and transparent and man, I could go on and on and on.
Well, I know as we
Your
close,
wisdom.
ask a couple of questions about marriage and relationships. So let's make sure we cover that if that's something
Yes,
you want to talk.
yes. Well, 50 years, I can't. Yeah.
51 this year in a couple of months.
Happy happy anniversary, happy early anniversary.
Thank you.
So how have you been able to sustain your relationship? And I mean, especially during the pandemic, I think even in relationships, people have been tested, stress tests, financial management tests, like just
Yeah.
so many different balancing tests. So what advice could you give to me or anyone that's listening about marriage and how to keep
Well, I did
romance?
write a book called Follow Your Heart, but Take Your Brain with You.
Mm,
And from a woman's point of view and from my point of view, I grew up thinking about romance. And I grew up thinking that this was it, that this was the most important thing, was somebody putting a ring on it. uh,
that seems to be the goal, the
yeah,
ring.
yeah. And so as I read and as I grew, there were many points in my marriage where I said to myself, he's either going to go or he's going to grow. And I was very comfortable with that because I said, I am not going to keep myself limited because I'm learning too much. This little flower has been watered with so much knowledge, so many books, so many mentors. I traveled for 12 years with phenomenal women like Iyanla Vanzant and Dr. Maya Angelou and Susan Taylor and Dr. Frances Cress Welsing and Dr. Coretta Scott King and Queen Latifah. I mean, I shared the stage with some iconic women for 12 years. I was watered by some amazing women. You think I'm gonna shrink and I couldn't do it. And it was like I'm evolving. I mean, I was evolving at a rapid rate. And I know I owned it. I knew that it made him uncomfortable. I knew it's like, who is this woman? Because I found my voice. I was writing books. I don't want to say I was talking back, but I was, clapping back. And I was traveling without him. because traveling wasn't part of his values, but it was part of mine.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? He's either going to grow or he's going to go. And he didn't go.
Wow.
And I realized that the stress factors like losing both of our parents, um, we watched both of our parents pass away together. That didn't break us. We had financial issues. That didn't break us.
Yeah.
We had two sons who were very strong willed. Huh, that didn't break us. We had moments when we couldn't pay our bills. That didn't break us. We lost our son. That didn't break us.
Yeah.
The pandemic didn't break us. And so you begin to realize that for me, in my mind, marriage is like a ministry. The more honest I was with who Jewel is and how I show up, that's why I'm called the Self-esteem Doctor, because I had to learn it. Um, the more honest I was about who I am, because usually in relationship, there's always one person who kind of outgrows the other.
Yes.
And that's where the challenge is. And what happens is I think a lot of people give up too quickly. I think people have this concept of next, next.
Yeah.
I just grew up in a generation where it's like, no, we're going to work this out. Okay, you're going to sleep in one room, I'll sleep in another room till we figure this out.
Yeah.
So for some people that doesn't work. I respect that. But I'm talking from my point of view and how my husband and I have worked through things through prayer, through patience, through tolerating our differences. Sometimes you have to tolerate it. There's an African proverb that says, before you get married, keep both eyes open.
Mm.
And when you get married, close one eye.
Yeah.
Because when you living with somebody, you're gonna see things like, oh Lord, what is this? And you have to find out and be honest with yourself. What is non-negotiable? My husband used to be a smoker and a heavy drinker, and I used to say, I'm not kissing you. You smoking cigarettes? That was the evolved Jewel.
Yeah.
He was smoking all along, but I never said anything. So a lot of times when you're not showing up your authentic self, things will happen, and
Mhm.
you're giving people permission to act a certain way, and you don't have the self-esteem to speak up because you're afraid they'll leave you, or you're afraid of getting abused. He's never laid a hand on me, so we never had an abusive situation. We just are very both strong-willed people,
Yeah.
and once we recognize it, one thing that I found out that's important is prayer and a sense of humor. If you don't laugh at least once a day, your marriage is in trouble
Wow.
because humor breaks the tension. So
Yeah.
when he and I bring up little things that I used to get really sensitive about, or I wouldn't talk for a few days because
Mhm.
my strategy was I'm not talking because I'm not a cusser and I'm not a violent person. So I just shut down. And so the more I learned, I was teaching other women, it was me pointing fingers back at myself. And I recognized I was passive aggressive. So I stopped doing that. I stopped being passive aggressive. I recognized it wasn't him, it was me, because that's how my mother was. We learned from our models, and my mother was passive aggressive.
Wow.
So once I could connect the dots and have self compassion, okay, Julia, you've been doing that for years, but we're not doing that anymore.
Right.
Uh, I wasn't beating myself up, and I saw the change because I had to be accountable for how I was acting, but
Yeah.
always pointing fingers because that's real easy to do.
Recognizing and changing
Yeah,
or correcting.
yeah. I say correcting and evolving because people
Yeah.
don't like change. Like I don't want change, but I'll evolve. I'll
'Cause
grow.
I think it's just a matter of how you see certain words, and that's why sometimes
Yes.
I don't it's like I never know what to say or how to say it because someone always says, "Well, you're hurting my feelings
Yeah.
because you're being too honest."
Yeah. And I think I teach a lot about how we present our pain to the partner. What do you say? And one
Yeah.
of the things I learned is, what would make me really happy is that when now here's a little pet peeve of mine. When my grandson comes to the house, my husband rushes and opens up that garage door because he'll come through the garage instead of the front door, and he's excited to see him. I'm like, it sure would be nice if he was excited to see me open up the garage. Now to him, that's probably like, Jill, that is so petty. But But I learned from the book, The Five Languages of Love. I learned how people love you. They have a different language. And so I learned that his language was the language of service, not other languages. And I learned my language of love was, showing me affection and showing me I love touch. But I learned to appreciate. He'll tell me, I just took the trash out. And I used to say, and and I realized that for him, that's an act of love. So I learned to not, be kind of catty and to say, you know what? I appreciate that. Thank you.
See, we're the opposite. We're the opposite. So I'm more of the acts of service, and my
Okay.
husband is more of the touch
Uh
and the intimacy part of him, I guess.
huh.
So where I'm like, "Oh, don't touch me." Now, I embrace it.
Yeah. But see, relationships go through seasons. There was a season when we were all top of each other all the time. Okay. Let's keep it real. But you go through seasons.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think, as I said, I think young people just have the next syndrome. Okay, you didn't do what I wanted you to do. Next. Okay, you pissed me off. Next. Okay, you didn't love me right. Next. Okay, you messed up. Next. Okay, you cheated on me. Next. You need to know what is non negotiable in your relationships. And you need to be able to clearly communicate. And I always say tone and timing is important. So it's important that you acknowledge, oh, don't do that. But what is the tone and what is the timing?
Yeah.
Timing is everything. Do I do that in front of other people? Do I do it when they're most vulnerable? And how do I say it? That's a big thing I had to help my husband understand. He's right 99% of the time, but his delivery, like, oh my God, is such a turnoff, man. Can you just come at me a little bit?
Talk to
He,
me nice.
yeah, it's like, golly. So I'm helping him to understand that first of all, I'm acknowledging that what you're saying is right, because people want to feel like they're doing something right. But I'm letting him know that your presentation, your delivery is what turns me off. So therefore, I'm being honest, but I'm also acknowledging him for caring enough to give me some information, or he's very protective. He's like a bulldog. He's very, very protective. And I'm very much an independent woman. So I'm like, I got this. And I had to learn, Jewel, that's the male lion, the watchdog in him. And I'm like, I already know. And I'm getting all, pushing back and realizing, respecting that part of his characteristic. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
That makes that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, yeah. And that's why I say marriage is a ministry, because it's where you practice love first. I can't go out here and minister to other people if I am not practicing the principles under my own roof. And that's where it's hardest to do because of proximity, familiarity. We know each other's good points. We know each other's downfalls. We know each other's too well. And so you can slip into apathy very easily. And a lot of people you probably have experienced this. You've seen people talk nice to other people. Like, for instance, my husband had a limousine business. And I used to say, you talk nicer to your customers than you do to me.
Hmm.
And
I've
I
experienced
had
that.
to take that risk, and I had to just, like, call it out like it is. Like, golly, I hear you on the phone and you talk.
Yep. Yep.
And I know it wasn't intentional, but I had to bring it to his attention.
Yes. Yes.
And a lot of people are not aware of what they're doing until you
Mhm.
make them aware.
Exactly. Yeah.
They just feel like, oh, well, that's just what I do. Yeah, but excuse me, you see me, I see you.
I've experienced that. And
Yeah,
I definitely had to speak on it. And I
yeah,
think that's where communication is so important in your
it's
relationship.
so important.
Yeah.
Where it probably wouldn't bother anybody else, but I have to be true to Jewel. I know the triggers that make me shut down. I know the triggers that make me feel unloved or make me feel whatever. I know them.
Yeah.
So if I'm not saying anything about it, then it's on me. It's
Yeah.
on me.
Ooh, definitely. This has been such a great conversation. I would go on and on and on and on because I feel like I can learn so much from you.
Well, let's
You've
do it again sometime, Nikki.
Yes, you've lived a long time. You look beautiful, amazing, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
how
Bye.
how can people get in touch with you and participate in the masterclass? Also find out more information about Women on the Grow Inc. and watch the Blend Talk.
Okay, thank you so much for that opportunity. First of all, Women on the Grow is my heart. That is my ministry. It is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And our mission is to provide resources, money, books, coaching to women that are struggling with different issues like depression, grief, abuse, single parenting. I deal with a lot of women who have children with special needs. So, what do they need? Money? Do they need free coaching? I'm not going to charge you. Do you need to come to my classes? Do you need to come to my retreats? We're not going to charge you. And we're able to do that because we have wonderful donors that I call sister sowers. And because of our sister sowers, I'm able to offer these things to women that are going through hardships in their life. Our website is womenonthegrow.org. And every year we have a retreat. Our ninth retreat in beautiful Malibu, California will be October the 15th, 16th, and 17th this year, 2021, in beautiful Malibu. You can get information on the website, womenonthegrow.org. My other website is jeweldiamondtaylor.com. And there you can learn about my coaching. You can click onto my podcast, my videos, the blogs that I write. You can receive my newsletter I send out, jeweldiamondtaylor.com. The Blend Talk, I am so honored to be one of three co-hosts, Dr. Karen McGibbon and Dr. Lisa Lewis. Dr. Lisa Lewis is a naturopath. Dr. Karen McGibbon is a psychotherapist and life coach and counselor. And we each represent different dimensions of the whole person. I speak mostly and address issues that deal with the spirit. Dr. Karen McGibbon deals with issues that deal with the emotional body. And Dr. Lisa Lewis deals with the issues that relate to our physical health. So it's a very holistic program that comes on every Wednesday. It is on Facebook at 3 o'clock. No, I'm sorry, 4 o'clock Pacific time. And we need everybody that watches. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please leave your comments. It's important to our algorithm that we hear from you. If you are appreciating it, if you have a question about it, we need your support so we could just really expand this platform. The Blend Talk, producer Lavonda Rouse.
Awesome. It's been a great experience to have you on the show, Mornings with Nikki Marie. I'm your host, Nikki Marie, and I have a guest that is coming up next as well. So everyone stick around. Um, Mornings with Nikki Marie airs every Friday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on WCAALP 107.3 FM. And you can get in touch with me, nikimarieradio at gmail.com, if you want to send me an email. I do have guest takeovers coming up very soon, next month. And if you can follow me on all social media platforms at Nikki Marie underscore radio, you will receive some phenomenal advice from these guests that I have that are all about motivating. We are creatively affecting change in our communities and around the world. So please continue to follow, watch, tell a friend to tell a friend,
Yeah.
and all that great stuff. So thank you, Dr. Joel, again for being a guest on the show.
Thank
I
you,
am so
Nicole.
happy to share this platform with you.
Oh, I'd love to meet you one day. Come on to our retreat in Mexico.
Yes.
You would love it.
I cannot wait. I have been fully vaccinated and I feel a little bit more sense of calm.
Uh-huh.
So, so I'm definitely looking forward to traveling and meeting all of my guests. And there is a global mental health summit coming up in Miami.
Oh,
There's a lot of stuff. So I need everyone to make sure you follow me on social media so you can stay updated with everything that's coming up.
wonderful.
Yes.
Congratulations on all the wonderful work you're
Thank
doing.
you.
So
Thank you.
needed. Thank you.
Yes. So thank you, everyone. Stick around for the next interview.